All right. I just wanted to go over the generic pre-hitting routine that all have our guys do. Now, there's plenty of guys that I do have some specific things for them, and it'll look different than this. But this just works as a general pre-hitting routine that should be good for just about anyone. Just this can kind of serve as a bit of a template almost that you can work off of for most guys. So the first things we're gonna do are just acquire some positions. So in general, what we want to do before we step in the cage is we want to acquire some positions. We want to be able to move through them, and we essentially want to prepare our body to do what we want it to do once we step in the cage. We're warming up to hit, not hitting to warm up, right? Setting ourselves up for success, setting ourselves up to be able to meet the demands of the task. So first thing I just like guys do in our general routine is that what's called a hook lying skywalker. So this is gonna be a static move. I'm gonna set up hook lying, and I'm gonna take my time setting it up so I can capture all the contacts that I want to create what I want. So I take one leg and I reach it long here. So this leg is in line with this leg, more or less. I have a ball between my knees that I'm applying pressure into the entire time to try and make sure I have my inside foot contact on that downside. And this long reach is going to create an overcoming strategy on one side, and I'm going to have a yielding strategy on the other side. Essentially, I'm just creating a turn here, and I'm going to breathe in this position, but I'm going to add in a reach towards the foot along this same line. So I have a parallel lines here. So I'm reaching in line with essentially what's my helical angle here. For the purposes of this, we're not really going to get into that, but I'm reaching along that angle. Everything's in line with each other. So if this leg reaches on a different line than this leg, we're no longer going to have this nice tight turn, which is what we're after here. So we're creating a tight turn statically. So this reach is going to control for the ISA position so that when we turn into that side, we're not cranking that ISA open, and it'll also help us control for that foot, allowing us to create that yield and absorb the energy. So this is what it looks like, and from here again, it's just a static breathing within the position. And then from the front view, it's going to look like this. I probably could have executed that leg reach a little bit better, but anyways, that is the move from that view. So from there, once we work the tight turn in a static environment, we're going to try and create it dynamically. Again, we're going to be in hook lying here. So I'm going to take my time setting it up. Balls between my knees. So I want to essentially set my knees up to work along railroad tracks. So one knee is going to push forward. As that happens, I'll feel some weight shift from the inside heel, and it's going to move towards the ball of that foot as it pushes forward. It's not going to get all the way there, but it's going to move forward along the inside of the foot. And then the other foot is going to move towards the heel pressure-wise. So I'm just creating nice tight turns. And as that, so right here, as that right knee gets behind, I have a heel bias here. And the back, my right PSIS, the back of my right hip is going to be heavier in the ground than my left. So I'm just creating nice tight turns here. And then from this view, it's easy to see. Again, there's not a lot of movement here. Again, this was just we're after relative motions. The biggest flaw you'll see with guys trying to execute this move is they try and create too much movement. And all they end up doing is creating a big orientation of the pelvis rather than relative motion between the sacrum and the ischium, which is what we're after. So again, we create this static delay, and then we start moving in and out of the delay. And then next, we're going to go into a hook line cross connect bridge. Now the bridge is going to be, I guess, a bit different than your traditional quote unquote glute bridge. But starting from the front or from the top here, we're going to set up hook line again. If I can get to the beginning of this video, we're going to set up hook line. And as always, we take our time setting that up to find what we want. And then we're going to bring one knee towards our nose and the opposite elbow towards that knee simultaneously, while this foot stays fixed with its contacts. So if I execute this initial move, I'm now heavy in my right PSIS. The back of my right hip is now heavy. I'm going to drive an inhale in this position to capture the delay. And then from there, I'm going to exhale, push through my foot, the inside of my foot. So now at the top of this quote unquote bridge, I should feel the weight having shifted from the inside of my heel over towards the ball of the foot now. So that's what's going to allow me to capture the shape that I want at the pelvis to be able to push it down efficiently. And then I come back down and the weight shifts back towards my heel. Re-inhale, reset the delay, push back up, weight moves forward towards the ball of my foot. So that there we're essentially just working from early into middle, back to early into middle. And the front view is going to look like this. I could have executed this better, but the general principle is what it is. Obviously, that wasn't the cleanest rep, but the point remains. So now, once we've hopefully captured some shapes and positions with some ground-based work, we're going to work onto our feet and train some internal dynamics. So we're going to bring out the water ball here. And what we're going to do is create this nice big vortex here. And what I'm doing is I'm creating this nice big vortex within, basically working from inside of this foot to the inside of this foot, inside of this foot to the inside of this foot, and around, right? So what we want is for the foot pressures to be congruent with where the water is within the ball, which is what we'll see in a second here. But essentially, I'm creating a lot of momentum and movement within my body within a very narrow window here. Now, the width of this window is dependent on the person a little bit, but either way, there's a lot of action going on here within a tight window. So I can store, potentially, if I can capture the right shapes, which hopefully we did before, I can store a lot of energy in a small space here. So from this angle, what I think is really cool to look at the right foot. So you'll see the foot pressure shifting along the inside of that foot in accordance with where the water is here. So that is our relative motions aligning with the internal dynamics, which is what we ultimately are after. And you'll notice nice and long tail to crown here. That's important. So now, building off of the internal dynamics of the stride, we're going to work into the next mover moves of the sequence. And to do that, I really like the med ball recoil slam. So I cue guys to use the lead foot to essentially push the that's not what I wanted, to essentially push the med ball across the body. So I'm starting with this med ball towards the lead hip, and then I'm going to push off of my lead foot to try and get that ball across. Now, by the time the ball gets here, I should feel heavier in my back foot than my lead foot. And that'll tell me that I created this nice tight lateral, I say lateral move, it's more of a turn, especially with some of my structure, but I'm now heavier on my right foot in congruence with where the med ball is. What you'll see with a lot of people when they do this recoil slam is the hips actually move in opposition to the med ball. So the med ball would come across and then the hips would slide the other way. So that's an inability to either get enough push out of the lead side, accept energy with the backside, or both happening at the same time, right? So what we want in this position is my weight to be essentially even with where the med ball is on my body. So and what's nice about this is similar to how the water ball kind of makes it so that just by its structure, right, the water can't get kicked out too far away from you. In this move here, this lead arm is making it so that as I push off this left side, that all of my contents and all that sort of stuff doesn't get kicked too far forward, because I have a constraint here with this lead arm. So it's keeping all the energy in tight as I work across. So that's the first cool part about the recoil move. And then the other cool part is as I get to this backside, the reverse of the recoil, where I now flip my hands up. So now my right hand is coming up over the top. I actually timed this pretty poorly, but ideally, as we now push down with this foot and we're creating this proximal to distal IR wave going down, that should be congruent with my right hand coming back up over the top. As you can see, it's late, so this is going to be somewhat ineffective. But what that's going to do is we're now creating, so the push down is going to create a shape in the pelvis to send the volume up right? So, and we can use this reversal of the hands to help facilitate that as well. So now my hands are working in congruence with this wave and the shape I'm creating at the pelvis to send the volume up my right side. And then all I have to do is catch it at the top and send it back down. So this is a really cool pre-hitting move if you can execute it properly, which hopefully the moves beforehand are able to allow us to do. So on the way up, you should feel as if the med ball kind of gets floated up. You can see my grip almost get light here as the med ball gets floated up, and then I grab it again, catch it, and send it back down. So that's a really nice tell of what the guts are doing inside of the body. All right, next we're going to work into a catch and release. So for this, as you can see, I like to use a smaller, harder med ball. So this is a lighter, smaller, harder med ball. Because what we'll see here as athletes realize that they have to start turning it around, they'll kind of cheat it and they'll get really firm with their catch in a hurry to basically get out of it and turn it around. So what this firmer med ball creates is that dampening effect, because what happens is when guys try and tense up early in anticipation of turning it around, and that backside or that front side actually gets pushed forward, they won't be able to accept the med ball as easily, and they get really stiff with their catch. And with the hard med ball, it hurts and they go ow. And what this just allows is a little bit of feedback for them to know that they're basically doing it right or wrong. So what we want to be able to do is still store this energy before turning it around, right? So the whole idea here is we're not just focused on this overcoming action. We want to turn the yield into an efficient overcome, right? So we use this ball to help facilitate that. The catch is exactly the same as the previous drill, but now we're just working our way out of it to store and release. And the lighter med ball will help us with the efficiency of this move, because we do want this to happen relatively quickly without sacrificing the energy acceptance phase.